Welcome friends to another r/idontworkherelady video. You know what's awesome and isn't any work at all? Taking 2 seconds to hit the like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by Aces Here for Art. Sir, I have no control over the robot. I, female 23, live in a major city where I'm attending grad school. This is definitely more common where I'm from, another major city, but it's new to my city. Robot-made coffee. It's fun to watch, much cheaper than other artistical coffee shops, and overall just cool. I was out shopping and decided to stop by the shop that had the robot coffee. I'd only been here once before. I ordered from the iPad, and after I checked out, it said there would be a 20-minute wait, which was weird because that didn't happen last time, but I guess a lot of tourists were in the area today. I walked around the store a bit, trying to waste time, and then came back to the waiting area to watch the robot. A guy who had a stroller came up to me and started complaining about how my robot was being too slow. I had shopping bags from other stores, was wearing AirPods, and was on my phone. He then asked me how many people were ahead of him, like I had knowledge of that. I said when I ordered that the iPad told me there were 5 people ahead of me. He then drilled me about how he'd been waiting for 10 minutes and he shouldn't have to wait as long because he had kids and that I should move his order up in the queue. I said I didn't have control of that, and he started rambling about how badly workers act nowadays and that they don't know customer service. They're hiring anyone off the streets these days, etc. I saw him leave the door in a huff, and literally 2 minutes later, his drink was done, and it probably sat there for hours. Or maybe somebody strolled up and was like, "Hey, free coffee." I mean, to be fair, I wouldn't take it, but if you walked up to a machine like this and saw a perfectly untampered cup of coffee, would you chance it or would you leave it? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by HuggyBear21. Karen gets sent to the hospital. It started off as a good day until I went shopping at the local safe stay. With what's going on in the world, I was determined to not linger and moved on about my shopping with purpose. Not lingering anywhere unless I had to, such as in the case of pausing to read a label. I did pause to help one elderly lady who asked me politely if I could get something off a top shelf for her. That was my mistake. I turned to go back to my shopping when I heard, excuse me, the call of the wild Karen. Before I even turned, I popped out the words, "I don't work here, never did," turned as I spoke, and there before me was a living meme, every inch a Karen. "You help that old hag," she screeched, "so don't try to tell me you don't work here." I helped her because she asked politely for my help, you rude old witch. Unlike you, you're rude, so you can just toddle off and take care of your own shopping. And by the way, I don't work here. All said sharply to her, then turned and went back to my shopping, steadfastly ignoring her screeching and yelling. She followed me, all the while screeching for a manager. A worker approached to see what was going on, and she yelled, not asked, full-on yelled at her to get a manager immediately. The worker scuttled off, not wanting to deal with an irate customer, to find a manager. Can't hold her to any blame here. It didn't take long for a manager to show up. She, the Karen, started yelling how I was rude to her and refused to help her while at work, blah blah blah. When she was informed that I'm just another customer, she went bat poop crazy and got much louder, insisting that I do work there, and she saw me helping someone else. It was then she made a huge mistake. I turned and stepped a few feet away to grab something I was getting anyways, when she screeched a wordless "ree" and charged after me. She made a grab for me, determined to see me punished for not being her servant of the moment. I dodged her easily and stepped aside, letting her rush past. When she did, she tripped and fell flat on her face and didn't immediately get up. I never touched her, she did it to herself. If that were the end, you'd all know I wouldn't have posted here. By the time she started to stir, the police and an ambulance had been called. The police arrived first, within 5 minutes, so they must have been nearby. They were checking her over as best as they could without moving her when she started stirring and trying to get up. Of course, she tried to say I shoved her and assaulted her, but the manager had already told them what happened, and they would view the security footage when she'd been seen to. She was a mess too. Bloody all down her front when she was able to sit up, probably from a broken nose or teeth. I'll update if I find out. I wasn't cuffed as I was being calm and not angry. If anything, I was concerned for her. The paramedics arrived shortly after and did their thing and hauled her off on a gurney. Last thing she yelled is that she was suing everyone, very loudly and very rudely. I pointed at the ceiling and said, "Security cameras, good luck with your suit." The police took a look at the security footage, got my name, address, and phone number, and sent me on my way. I'm puzzled at how nearly everywhere I go, someone thinks I work there. Most people are polite and even apologetic when informed that I don't work there, but some, they make shopping or getting out a hilarious and annoying adventure. This might be just about the most random thought I could have, but when OP mentioned looking up and seeing the camera, it made me realize how little I actually look up and look for cameras in places like that. Honestly, with the frequency of these Karen encounters, it might not be a bad thing to make sure that there is a camera near me. Our next story is by Jake Baked a Cake, Valet for a Day, or more like 5 minutes. I don't know why I just now thought to post this, but this happened around the 4th of July. For context here, my girlfriend, female 20, and I, male 21, met through Discord and are currently long distance. I'd gone to visit her over the 4th of July week in California, so my girlfriend and I had a mall date planned for that day. Nothing all that special, I know, but we don't get to see each other in person that much, so we take what we can get. Anyway, I'm sitting at the doorstep of the hotel I'm staying in, waiting for my girlfriend to come pick me up. She was still living in her mom's apartment at the time, so staying with her is a huge no-no. I'm sitting there scrolling through Reddit when all of a sudden, this older lady pulls up in her SUV, leaves it there, not in a parking spot, and goes inside, presumably to check in. I shrug it off and go back to my phone. A few minutes later, the lady walks back out and asks, "Excuse me, could you be a dear and park my car for me?" I don't know if they thought I was a valet guy or whatever, but I was the only person there, so she couldn't have been talking to anybody else. I figure I don't have anything better to do while I wait for my girlfriend, so I say, "Sure, I can do that. That spot over there okay?" I point to the nearest available parking spot. She hands me her keys saying, "As long as my car's nice and parked, it's fine by me." So I get in her car and take it right to that spot without an issue. By the time I get out of the car, my girlfriend's pulled up, most likely wondering why the heck her boyfriend is getting out of someone else's car. I give my girlfriend a little wave, walk over to the lady and hand her keys back over. As I did, she handed me a $20 bill, thanking me for my help. I told her she didn't have to do that, but she insisted, saying I didn't have to park her car either, but I did so anyway. So I thank her for the money and step into my girlfriend's car. When my girlfriend asks what just happened, all I can do is look at her and say, "I'm not quite sure." I explained the whole thing to her while we were at the mall later on, and we had a good laugh about it. So yeah, not the Karen type drama people are probably used to from this sub, but I thought this wholesome little bit was worthy of being here. Honestly, with the way the lady reacted, I'm not even sure if she did think you were a valet. Or maybe she got the memo after the car was parked or something like that, because the way they said, "You didn't have to," kind of implies that they knew it wasn't their job. At least I think so. This next story is by Brainstormed XO. Chad thought I work here too. Disclaimer, I technically still work in Store L, but I'm leaving at the end of the month, and I've been transferred from the store near Store B in February. I went to a store, let's call it B. Me and a family member forgot something, so I went back inside by myself. Grabbed my things, went towards the self-checkout, when I hear a voice, "Excuse me." I ignored it thinking there's an employee nearby and they're screaming at him, but then I feel my legs being smashed with a cart. "What in the world are you doing?" They say, "You've been ignoring me, so I had to grab your attention somehow. By the way, where's item?" I didn't hear what he wanted. I say, "Do I look like I work here?" Employees of Store B wear red polos with black collars, while Store L employees wear navy polos with the yellow store logo. They say, "You work at Store L, you have to help me then." I say, "I haven't worked there for 9 months. Why? Leave me be and go find an actual employee." I then headed to the self-checkout. Main part about Store B is that the manager's office is right by the self-checkout. I've been ignoring Chad and his hex spawn, who were screeching next to him by the way, and have been paying for my stuff when the manager walked out. The manager says, "Excuse me, can I help you with something? Why are you so loud, sir?" They say, "This stupid woman's been ignoring me and not helping. Fire her now." The manager looks at me, then back at him, then at me again and says, "Sir, she doesn't work here. And never worked here." I paid for my stuff and left by then, but I heard him scream after me while I was walking away. The manager blocked his way though. Remember guys, never assume someone works in a store because you've seen them work somewhere else. You know, OP clarifying don't assume somebody works somewhere else because you've seen them work a certain job already kind of has me a bit concerned. Because during my last doctor's visit before surgery, I was wondering why I saw the guy who sells deep-fried Twinkies at the local fair there. I just assumed since I saw them sell me deep-fried Twinkies they must be a brain surgeon. Maybe that explains more than I thought. Deep-fried Twinkies sound kinda good. And our final story of the day is by Corvus Rock. How I caused a Karen to question herself and scared a second in one day. I work at a hotel of a particular franchise that has national and international locations. I work night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., also known as the graveyard shift. I've even earned the reputation and gained the work nickname as the Zombie, especially when the hotel has staff meetings at 1 p.m. when I'm usually in bed sleeping. While the day shifts typically wear very nice clothing, my dress code is somewhat loosened. I wear an old uniform, which is a blue shirt with the company logo. This is important, with a name tag and dress pants. Very frequently after work, especially on days that I need to restock my pantry at my apartment, I often travel to a local mini Walmart. You know the kind, as it's on my way home. This location knows me enough that I come at a near regular appearance on certain days and times. I've even been exceptionally fortunate for 7 years that I've not had the luxury of being picked on by a Karen, as I live in a state full of them. That changed last month when I encountered 2 Karens in one visit. Quick important note, it dawned on me on this particular day that most, if not all, Karens within my particular state are super into a particular version of Christianity and will use the Bible and/or God, Jesus, to try and get their way. Now on to the meat of the story. If there is one thing I despise about my shifts, it's this. My reliefs rarely show up on time for their shift. The upside? Overtime for me. The downside? My sleep is delayed even more. On this particular day, my relief was over an hour late. However, the circumstances of their being late could have easily been avoided with a simple alarm, so mental energy was not very high, if at all. On top of it all, it was grocery day for me. I feel horrible for the staff already. After driving very carefully to the mini Walmart, I got my shopping cart and I began grabbing groceries for my stocks. Keep in mind, I wear a full blue work shirt, much like the staff at most Walmart locations. The only difference is that they also wear a green vest over the blue shirt. I begin getting my groceries, always starting with the sodas. As I turn the aisle into the next item on my list, I heard the dreaded sound of not one, but 2 Karens down the aisle berating a customer. One eventually looks at me while I was grabbing some snacks for the upcoming weeks. The other Karen eventually heads down another aisle. Turns out they weren't together. Karen 1 says, "Hey, about time you arrived." I didn't react or respond to Karen 1 as I grabbed my preferred snacks. She says, "Hey, I'm talking to you." I let out a zombie-like groan from Diablo 2, and it caused Karen 1 to be very startled. Leaning into a look her way in a very zombie-like manner, I stared at her for a few seconds. Karen 1 looked terrified at my low mental energy state and did the best thing for me. She turned around and left, more than likely with a tiny portion of her list. That little encounter gave me a bit more energy as I felt a tad bit better. Karen 2, on the other hand, would be a different beast altogether. Feeling somewhat better, I then resumed my shopping until I heard the familiar screech of the second Karen I saw earlier. Karen 2 says, "Just point the way to a..." Oh, there's an employee who can be of an assistance. Unlike you, ungrateful cretin. I thought, did that witch just say that? I looked at the Karen and noticed the very big cross on her neck, as well as the crosses that are embroidered on her purse and her cart. Oh, just perfect, I chuckled to myself. Karen 2, pushing her cart towards me, says, "Excuse me, your coworkers are so rude here. I was hoping that you could show me where I can find specific item." I say, "I'm afraid I don't know what that is, and I seriously doubt that this place even sells it." Karen 2 says, "That's not very helpful from you." I say, "What do you want me to do? I don't work here and you can't make me." Karen 2, still upset from the previous interaction, says, "Your blue shirt says otherwise." Me, chuckling while groaning, say, "Opposes the arrogant, graces the humble." Karen 2, indignant, says, "What's that supposed to mean?" I mumbled to myself, "Why now? Of all times, why now?" Karen 2, getting red in the face, says, "Now, do you know where I can find specific item?" A bit forcefully, I say, "As I've stated, I doubt this place sells it. Also, I don't work here, so I can't even confirm that assessment." Karen 2 says, "Don't get smart with me, you jerk. Just tell me where it is in the store." Finally, a store employee of a higher rank enters the field of view, and the Karen begins berating him. The supervisor says, "Ma'am, can I help?" Karen 2 jumps in, "Where can I find specific item?" The supervisor says, "I don't think we even sell that at this location. You may have to go to one of our larger locations." Karen 2, very mad now, says, "I know you guys have it here, and your employees," pointing to the two of us, "are being exceptionally rude to me to find it." Supervisor says, "Ma'am, this gentleman does not." Karen 2, livid, jumps in, "He's wearing a blue shirt." I point to the company logo and name on my shirt, at which the Karen slowly realizes that she was in a losing fight. Karen 2, seeing the logo and realizes she's talking to someone she already met, says, "Wait a minute, aren't you the guy who worked at midnight at hotel?" Me, as I finally recognize her, say, "Well, that explains that attitude more." The Karen's now humiliated. I checked her in during my shift at my hotel. She checked in with an attitude I couldn't describe well. She was very nice but had a slight uppity tone that put me off for a strange reason. Karen 2 says, "I'm so sorry, OP, I didn't sleep well." My nerves calming down, mental energy still extremely low, I say, "Opposes the arrogant, graces the humble." Karen 2 recognizes the quotes, a Bible verse, 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 5. I say, not just the Bible, but every culture around the world has some iteration of that. The supervisor says, "It's a good lesson." I turned away to resume my shopping. I've not seen either Karens since that day. I think I'm more interested in OP's reputation as a zombie if apparently they can growl like a zombie from Diablo 2. Is this a hidden talent? Did they develop their Diablo 2 zombie groan specifically? These are the burning questions that I have. But sadly, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel, and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.